Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of On That Note. Moving on. Great you could be here today. Hey, I just wanted to mention at the end of this video, if you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to hit that like button and share with your friends and family. You could also subscribe to my YouTube channel here, and there's lots of links to interact with at the end of the video. So check it out. Got another question in from Melanie from Peterborough, and her question is, where do you look for inspiration when it comes to your writing your lyrics? Awesome question, Melanie. Thank you so much for taking the time to send that in. Great question. Let's get personal. So this is a question about me, and I hope that this might help any of you out there when it comes to making blog videos, vlog videos, writing music, lyrics-wise, chords-wise, anything. For me, and even like drawing anything, where are you getting your inspiration when it comes to doing anything that has to do with what you do creatively? And like I said in previous videos, I think everybody has creativity in them. And so let's nail this question. This is a great question. Where do I find inspiration when it comes to writing my lyrics? I always feel, and I've always felt this way, that I have absolutely no right to write anything that I have not experienced myself. There are a couple of exceptions. For example, for me personally, I always write my perspective of life, about my perspective of life. I can also say that I've written about my perspective of other people's lives or other situations in life. But again, I'm focusing on my emotions, mainly my emotions and how I perceive it, because I don't feel like I have the right to speak for somebody else or to be in their shoes, because I'm not. So I don't want to pretend. My goal in life is to be real. For very, very many years, I haven't been real. I was pretending, and you know, a lot of times you have to start out that way, so I'm not bashing that. I mean, you have to start out. For example, a lot of my inspiration for music came from other people's songs, right? So, you know, if you're an artist, maybe a lot of your inspiration came from another artist. Or if you're a vlogger, maybe you've been watching a particular vlogger or a particular couple of vloggers and gotten your inspiration or influenced by them, right? So this is okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's a point where I had to go from trying to be like somebody else or some other people together, so to speak, where I had to find out what's my version of this. You know, what am I supposed to bring to the table, or what is my flavor, if you will. And so I had to go from finding inspiration from other people to finding, okay, Jocelyn, what's inside of you that you need to express. And so my main inspiration, especially for my lyrics, Melanie and everybody else, is what's inside of me, my perspective of life. I'd say probably 98%, if not more, of the songs that I've written are things that I have experienced and parts of my life throughout the journey of my life. So, you know, as far back as when I was a kid to even just, you know, till today, a lot of the songs that I'm releasing on an album on the 25th of this month of April are songs that, I don't know, they're from many different parts of my life, but mainly from, I'd say, 5 or 6 years ago, probably between 5 and 8 years ago. And then there's a couple that I've written this year and a couple I've written last year. So it's, you know, they're parts of my life that I have experienced, and then I feel they're very personal to me. They're very if I can say, very profound to me. So I need to express that, and the way that I do that is through music and lyrics. So my inspiration when it's concerning to writing lyrics is most definitely, if not absolutely, through my own experience. And, you know, there's other ways of doing it, and inspiration for lyrics, you know, I gotta say, all I've said all my life has always been, it's always a matter of perspective. You know, the way that I see something is going to be different than the way you see something. It's also going to be different the way, let's say your friend sees something. So, you know, the benefit of that is that there's limitless amount of things to write with. You'll never run out of things to write with. There's so much music in this world, and sometimes that can get intimidating and it can be disheartening, I guess I could say. But I guess to encourage you all out there, there's always something to write about. And the cool thing about it is it doesn't have to be somebody else's. You can start that way and that's cool. But there's something inside of you that is very profound, that is very special and incredibly unique. No one else feels that way, the way you feel, exactly the way you feel. You know, like how there's never the same snowflake. You know, you're a unique individual snowflake, and you need to express that, you know, whichever way, whichever outlet, whichever gift and passion that you have, you know, express that. And so, you know, the way you perceive something, maybe somebody never thought of it that way, and they need to hear that, and it'll relate in some way. Maybe not exactly the same way, but they'll be able to relate with you. So the way that I find inspiration is through perspective and through experience. And like I said, I don't feel like I have the right to do anything really otherwise. I mean, if I'm writing lyrics about somebody else's life, it's again my perspective of how they're feeling, or my perspective of my relationship with that person, or my interaction with that person, etc. So again, I'm not trying to be in that person's shoes and tell the world what they think and what they're doing, because I can't read their mind. I really feel like I only have the right to tell you what's in my heart and what's in my mind. So that's basically where I get my inspiration for my lyrics. I'll give you an example. I could go through something really sad or really happy, or something very life-changing where, you know, those moments, we all have moments where something happens and our life is turned upside down, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or a mix of the two. And it really makes us search inside ourselves. And usually points like that, a lot of lyrics start coming out for me. And what I'll do is I'll just start writing them out, even if I don't have a plan for that particular thing, or even if I'm not even thinking of a song coming out of it. I'm still going to write it out, because that's one way of getting that out onto paper, is like kind of therapeutic for me, and for some other people. It's sort of like journaling, if you will. And then sometimes I'll go back to that journal and I'll read it and I'll go, wow, that sounds like a really good song. So that's sometimes where it comes out of. Or I'll just sit down and I'll have some, I'll be thinking about a particular instance, or I'll be thinking about how I feel about something. And then all of a sudden I'll hear a little tune. And I'm like, oh, okay, that actually really works with, you know, it's only the sound of my heart that you hear, you know. So, for example, that song, Only the Sound of My Heart That You Hear, I wrote for my grandma when I was a really young gal. I was terrified of thunderstorms, and she used to hold me and rock me, and she'd sing, don't be afraid of the thunder, my dear, for it's only the sound of my heart that you hear. And thinking about that even to this day makes me want to cry, because of how much she loves me, and how she would, you know, she could have been sleeping at that time, or she'd been going through anything, but she took that time in the middle of the night to come to me, to come to my room, pick me up and hold me and sing that to me. Like, that is so much love, and that moves me even to this day. That's like 20 years ago, and it still moves me just as much. So I had to express it somehow. And I also wanted to, you know, I just wanted to show my grandma how much it meant to me that she did that to me. And I wanted to show the world how much my grandma meant to me. So I wrote that song. And it's also on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But yeah, I mean, like, it could be anything. It could be it could be how you felt when you were in high school. It could be how you feel about your new job. It could be how you feel about a friend. It could be, and you know, again, it could be something negative. It could be being betrayed, or it could be being really hurt, you know. It could be when you're really angry about something. There's a song that I just wrote. It's called You Don't Know Me Like I Do. And it's a time where I was hurt, and I was going through where I didn't understand that this person in my life, who I loved very much, would do the things that they did, and how it hurt me very much. And I don't hate that person. In fact, I've forgiven that person. But it's part of my heart and part of my life, part of my journey and my experience. So I wrote it out, and I actually really like the song. I'm not trying to sound conceited, but I really like the sound of the song and the lyrics, and that song's going to be released on the album too, so check that out. Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to inspiration for lyrics, it's anything. I really couldn't pinpoint it for you. I'm sorry if that's disappointing, but with this extended answer, basically life experiences and, you know, in perspective of life experiences, mainly for myself. You know, I'll give you a little something, you know, if I have experienced it, usually it just comes out. And there's no time or rhyme or rhythm for it. no pun intended. It just happens, you know. I just sit down and there it is, or I'll come back to it and I'll look at this lyric or I'll look at this journal entry or whatever, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's it, that's a new song. Or I'm like, maybe I can do something with this, and I start writing and I start playing on guitar or the piano or whatever, and I'll get something for that. So you know, there's other, but I find if I have to write a song, and that's much like anything else, then I'm not as inspired, I'm not as good, because I have like a little bit of an expectation. And with creativity, you can't have bounds, you can't have limits. You know, anybody would know that. All of you would know that with creativity. If you're cooking and you want to bake something because you want to bake it, and you have no limits or restrictions or no expectations, then you love doing it. But if you have to cook for a huge party and they have very specific, you know, like description of how they want that food to taste and the kind of spice you're gonna, you know, there's pressure, and so there's not as much enjoyment when there's pressure. You know, when I was in high school, when I was in public school, I loved art. You know, I love painting, I love drawing, I still do, I love coloring, you know. I always think you're never too old to color. But when I got into high school, I hated art. In fact, I stopped doing it after it was a compulsory credit, because I didn't like being told what to do when it came to creativity. And it might sound a little arrogant or something, but when it comes to lyrics, if somebody, so if somebody asks me to write about something in particular, I find that very difficult, because now I've got this box that I've got to work between, these walls that I have to kind of stay inside of. And when it comes to writing lyrics, and when it comes to writing music or doing art or cooking or anything that you can think of that you're doing, it's really hard to work to the best of your ability when there's limits, you know. So for me, inspiration comes when there's no box, there's no limits, there's no expectations. It comes naturally through experiences and feelings and emotions and experience situations and everything. Like, you know, it just comes from, that's the coolest thing about this whole entire thing, is, you know, what you do is what you love, and there's no rules, really. I mean, there's guidelines, and I'll talk about guidelines in further videos to come. But, you know, stay true to yourself is really where I'm coming from here. You know, my best advice to all of you creative people out there for this particular video is stay true to yourself, and it's inside you, not anyone else. It might be relatable to what's inside somebody else, but what you have is very unique. So you need to get it out, whatever way that is. So find your inspiration. Don't let there be any limits. Be true to yourself and love what you do. So that's all I'm going to leave with you today. Thanks for the question, Melanie. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all your questions. Please continue sending them in. Please send me in some comments. I've been getting lots of comments and questions. It's great. And thank you so much for joining me again. And on that note, keep it real.